you are required to do a internship between your first and second year. It's meant to be a co-curricular experience. So our goal is to get you out into the working world, so to speak, for a professional experience that complements your academic program. It is required. Normally, and I'll talk about this past summer, but normally there's essentially two requirements. One, it has to be policy related. Now we put that in quotes because policy related, we define very broadly. In other words, research for an investment banking firm would be policy related. Research for, or policy development for someone running for office would be, or a current office holder would be policy related. Consulting work in the private sector or the federal sector would be policy related. Nonprofit work. We have a very, very broad definition of policy related. The other major requirement is 400 hours, and it must be during the summer. All these requirements can be waived by the dean. We typically try not to do that, but 400 hours is 10 weeks at 40 hours a week. Those are the two requirements up until this summer that we were pretty hard and fast with. Obviously, we had to kind of flex a little this past summer because we had a number of folks who had already secured internships lose those internships, and we had folks struggle to get internships. So we took that to the dean and presented the situation, which of course he was well aware of, but we kind of gave him some details. And he waived the 400-hour requirement. Oh, I'm sorry, there's a third one, in person, because we think organizational dynamics and office setting, right, that it lends to a professional experience. And as Jeff said, you're in a professional school. So telework prior to this past summer was generally not authorized because just sitting in your apartment doing work wasn't the co-curricular experience that we hoped for. So clearly we waived that this past summer, and telework was completely authorized, and many students completed their internship by telework. And we waived the 400 hours and loosened it to 6 weeks. And we did not put an hour requirement on what 6 weeks meant. And Hannah and I also kind of cast our net out maybe more than we do in some years and reached out to alums. And we have an advisory board as well of mid to senior level folks who can help with this. And local governments, Richmond Public Schools, Albemarle County Public Schools, Albemarle County government, and tried to develop as many opportunities as we could. And we were successful. We have 89 MPP students in our second year class, and all 89 of those students completed their internship requirement this past summer. So it's not going to be something that will keep one of the second years from graduating in May. Our office is the approval authority for that internship. So typically what will happen is a student might reach out at some point during the year to me and say, hey, Steve, I'm thinking of this opportunity, or I have this opportunity, will that meet the internship requirement? And most of the time the answer is yes. One of the ones that we almost never approve is pure canvassing for a political candidate. So knocking on doors or answering telephones for someone running for office, we don't consider to be as robust an experience as we'd like. Again, if you're on their policy team or their finance team and you're helping develop talking points and background papers, that's all great because you're actually doing research and producing policy memos for a potential future government leader. We do offer, since it is a required component of the graduate degree, we do offer what we call fellowship funding, which looks great on a resume. You might know it as a stipend, for students who accept unpaid or low-paid internships. It's a fixed pot of money. It comes from our foundation, so it's coming from donations from alumni and benefactors. And how much you get each year is somewhat dependent on how many people are asking for it. The dean does have it as one of his strategic priorities to increase the amount of funding available. But if you want a hard and fast number, depending on where you're living, it's going to be somewhere around the $3,000 to $4,000 range for that 10-week experience. It's meant essentially to offset your cost of living as best we can. If you're in the Charlottesville area, it's going to be closer to 3,000. If you're in Washington, D.C. or New York, or sometimes overseas, we occasionally, again, not this summer, but occasionally have folks go overseas, it could be in the 4,000 or slightly higher range.